You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 on Instagram and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold. Today we have two special guests, friends of Lawyer Stories that I'm excited to welcome in here. Jennifer Netska, founder and managing attorney at Netska Law Group, personal injury attorney located in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and also serving clients in New York. We also have Ankit Kapoor, partner and trial attorney at Cohen Stine Kapoor LLP, focused on high net worth matrimony and family law cases in New York City. How are you both doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Good. I think I only tripped over a couple of words in there, but I did the best I could, so I hope you'll accept it. It's good to see you both. And do you guys know? So I was thinking about it. Do you know what you both have in common? Can anybody out there guess? So I'll tell you before you take a guess, and it gets like a little weird. So you both have in common that you've been to more than one Lawyer Stories event. And that means like so much to me. Like Ankit, you've been there for us in New York, like that. Is something that's huge. Jen, if you come to Boston in October, you will complete the hat trick. We saw you in Miami. You were in New York City. Like that was like super cool to see you in both. So I really appreciate you guys for like coming out and, supporting, and it's just awesome to hang out with you guys.
Gotta make my rounds.
Happy to be there.
Yeah. And shout out to Lawyer Stories Connect launching in October. I hope to see you both as founding members. No pressure, of course, but I think it's going to be very beneficial to everybody. So let's dive into it. Got some good stories here. Like you guys are doing sort of different things. Jen, let's start with you. Are you a New Yorker? Like, tell us just give us a little background. Are you a New Yorker?
Yeah, I'm a New Yorker born and bred. I've only relocated 3 years ago. I was one of the COVID transplants, so I followed the rally down to South Florida.
Really? What was that about? There was a rally down to South Florida?
Oh yeah, there was that exodus after COVID, so I was following everybody off Long Island and down to South Florida after COVID.
I didn't know you had just moved down there like 3 years ago.
Yeah. I've only been down here 3 years. I was working, awesome. Born and bred, law school, college, and then I worked in New York for several years before I relocated. So
what was the deal? Why did people go down there? I never heard of that.
I mean, post-COVID, everything was like closed in New York.
Okay.
All the restrictions, like there was not a whole lot going on.
Ankit, how do you feel about that? No, I'm just kidding.
I don't want to crap all over my New Yorkers, but I had to get out of there.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's cool. Okay, so I didn't realize you were had only been down there for a few years. So yeah. So tell it. So you went to school, born and raised New York, went to school in New York. So tell us, was there a moment you decided to become a lawyer?
That's always a hard question, but I think really the truth is I was always the little nerd growing up with my head buried in the books. Oh yeah.
Okay.
I was always a bookworm, and I said that I wanted to be a lawyer since before I even knew what a lawyer was. And the truth is I went through college and saw some of my friends getting these entry-level jobs with their degrees, and there's nothing wrong there, but I just felt like I wasn't ready for the real world yet. And I just loved being a student. I guess I'm just one of those weirdos that wanted to continue on with school. And I said to myself, yeah, I always wanted to be a lawyer. I've been saying it my whole life. Now is my chance to go to law school. So I just went forward with law school. Because
do you remember what you thought being a lawyer was like when you were thinking about it as a kid?
That you did a lot of reading and that you always argue and you always got to be right.
Gotcha.
And that was my personality. That was my personality.
And that just fits you just fine, right? Okay. So Jen, tell us about your law school experience. Like, was there anything you wish you had done differently? Like, what was a challenge or like an inspiration that happened along the way?
Law
Yeah.
school was not easy for me.
Okay.
Despite being the bookworm I just said I was, I it was hard for me. I'm the first generation attorney. I did not come from a family of lawyers or judges like a lot of my peers. And I had to work. So it was a lot to juggle. I did the best I could. I graduated, with, B's, but I leaned on the girlfriends that I met in law school. But I'm not gonna lie, it was really challenging for me. And I didn't like law school. For me, I went in, I did what I had to do. I went home, I studied just to get those B's. And then I went off to waitress and bartend.
These are like
Which
really good.
B's and C's, I won't lie. But
you know what they say, Jen, like C's and D's get degrees, right? Like,
and it really doesn't matter at this point. And then I went on to my waitressing and bartending, and that's what I needed to survive through law school. So for me, it wasn't pleasant. It was a true grind for me. And I just, now it's like a blur. I'm just grateful I got through it.
yeah, no, for sure. Do you feel like you may, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but do you feel like you made a lot of good friends? Well, it sounds like you were leaning on them, but like with a lot of people like made a lot of their good friends like in law school as opposed to like undergrad. I mean, I went to a big undergrad like university and my law school was kind of like high school again. Like what was it? Do you have anything to comment about
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
That is one thing I do remember vividly with law school was I was sitting in orientation. There's hundreds of students surrounding me. I'm in this huge auditorium and I'm looking around the auditorium and they made a comment like, lean on the peers around you, come up with a core study circle. And I'm looking around and I kind of made eye contact with these two girls across the room. And I kind of like gave them that eye, like, we need each other.
Really?
And
what do you think the look was? Ankit, any idea like what they saw in each other at that moment?
I scanned that room real quick because I could see I really got to find this group. They said find a crew to lean on, and those are your study buddies. Cool. And I really looked around that auditorium. I locked eyes with these two ladies, and we met up after the orientation. And we still text. We are good friends. We attend each other's weddings. We send each other's children's gifts. And despite being in different practice areas, for a little while we were in the same practice areas. We text all the time. We ask each other the weird questions, but we're in touch.
Well, I mean, the big question is, do they follow Lawyer Stories? I mean, I don't know.
We gotta double check that. We have to double check that. If they don't, after tonight, they will.
I hope so.
They'll have to watch this interview.
No, they will. So that's awesome. I mean, they could have sat you down and like said to you, I don't know if you've ever heard this. Like, I know I'm much older than both of you, but they could have been like, look to your left. That person will not be here after the first semester. Look to your right. Like that person won't. Have you ever heard that whole thing?
I have heard that.
Okay, you've heard. All right.
And everyone drops like flies. Yep.
That's right. So, okay, good. So we got Jen up to like law school. So a little bit challenging, but I'm going to come back to you. We're going to go to Ankit. I know you had some incredible like experience after law school. So it sounded like you did really well for yourself in terms of jobs and that sort of thing. So Ankit, awesome to have you back, man. I know you've been on the show. Like I appreciate you being here, dude. I always appreciate your support. It's really cool to see you and to have you here. So you're a New Yorker, right? Like, is that?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I didn't leave. I'm not a traitor like someone else.
You didn't leave. Okay.
Okay.
And you even stayed through the whole COVID exodus, which is really,
I did.
And
I stayed in Manhattan through the COVID time.
So one really cool thing, there's a lot of cool things about Ankit. One thing that I definitely want to highlight is that you were a police officer, man. Like before you became, and you were like, I don't know what number it was, but we featured you like a long time ago. And I distinctly remember like the photo was like half and half. I used to do like occasionally half and half photos, like street clothes and then Ankit in like his like uniform, right? Is that what we did?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I think
and you got so much like engagement on that. And I think it's just such a cool thing that like you were in the police force. So I don't think I've asked you this before, but like how did you know like and decide to become a police officer in the first place?
Growing up on Long Island, I always came across police officers, friends of friends, family, and they made a lot of money, to be honest. And I was like,
Yeah.
I said, I
Oh,
can be a
man.
police officer and make a lot of money. I want to. This is kind of cool, you know. It was a little bit of an immature way of looking at things. I wanted a gun and a badge, and then
You know
I
what, man? You'll get a badge with Lawyer Stories Connect. I don't know if it's like the badge you're looking for.
keep promoting
All
it.
right, no, go ahead. All
Yeah.
right, gun
So
and a badge. Gun and a badge.
I wanted to, but then I decided that I want to be a cop in the city.
Yep.
So I was a freshman in college. At that time, I don't know what it is now. When I was a freshman in college, all you had to be was 17 and a half to take the police exam.
Wow.
And the score is good for 4 years. So the minimum age to get hired was 21. And, you know, I figured if I take the exam at 17 and a half, by the time I'm 21, I can fulfill my other requirements and my score will still be good. And when I graduate college, I can go right into the police academy. And I couldn't tell you how perfectly that plan worked out because I graduated college and I went right into the police academy, right? You know, it was in 2011, middle of the recession. So I did 6 months of police academy in Manhattan from July to December of 2011. And then I worked in the 79th precinct in Bed-Stuy. I worked in the 75th precinct, that's East New
Wow.
York, and went to law school part-time at night.
Okay.
I was a cop for 7 years. 4 out of those 7 years I spent in law school at night. About half of that time in law school, I worked midnights. So I was sleeping
Okay.
during the day, go to class from 6 to 10, work from 11 to 8 overnight.
Oh my goodness.
That changed after a while. I had some help in the police department.
What years were you a cop? You said 7 years. Like what? Do you remember what year?
2011 to 2018.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Did you see anything like what kind of a beat were you on? Like were you just like responding to like everything that they needed you for?
In the beginning, everyone was on a foot post. So I was on a foot post in the projects. And then you get a sector car. Then I had a car. But, you know, you call 911, I'm the guy that's responding. So that's anything from a homicide to a robbery to a domestic to a petty larceny, anything.
That you know that so that's crazy. Like a bat, and you're like, hey, they make a lot of money. Like you would think you'd do something else because that's just you really have to have a mindset to be a policeman. Like that's a job that like not everybody can do. So I don't know, man. Like maybe there was something else there. Like did you like the criminal aspect or like the mystery or like solving the problems? I mean, that's because that's intense. I mean, you could go somewhere. You could be like I don't know, do whatever else. I mean, I know you got police officers do get paid very well. I mean, especially if they have like like a detail or something or, overtime, but that's a tough job.
Yeah. I wanted to be part of like an organization, a big
Okay.
organization. I want to be part of a team. So that was another big reason why I
Gotcha.
And people ask me like, do you regret being a cop? Did you like being a cop? I love being a cop. I have no regrets. I would do it all over again. I would change nothing. I love
Wow.
going to law school at night, and I was jealous of the full-time students because like Jen, I'm a bit of a nerd too. I wanted to go to law school
Oh
full-time.
yeah.
But I couldn't. But look, people ask me, would you do law school all over again? In a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no regrets.
If I was you, I'd get like your police uniform and like frame it and put it in your office. Like just
Do you see this behind me?
like a jersey, like if you were a football player, like you put a jersey like in your
I was interviewed.
Yeah, that's the picture we used to feature.
That's the pictures we use. Yeah. This was in this is April 2017.
No, it's really amazing. So wait, you were still in the force in 2017?
Yeah, from 2011 to 2018 I was
Yeah,
on.
that's incredible, man. I mean, that's not too long ago. Like a decade
years
hasn't
ago.
even gone by. What's that?
6 years ago.
Do you still like see some of the people from the
Yeah, one of my closest friends, he's a detective in counterterrorism. Another close friend is a chief in the chief of patrol's office. So I have some close friends in the police department still.
I don't know if you've ever seen like the 1980s classic Police Academy. That's why I was kind of smirking at the beginning because that's like that's a funny movie, man. Have you seen that at all?
No, that I
Oh, you guys are very young. Okay, so Ankit, I'm going to ask you one more question and then shift back to Jen. So one might think like after being a police officer, you'd be like, okay, I'm going to be a prosecutor or a criminal defense attorney. But like, tell us why you went to go into family law and handling, these high net worth matrimony and family law cases?
So the matrimonial law kind of fell in my lap, but I always wanted to be a divorce attorney. And here's why. When people call 911, they call 911 in a very bad time. When people call a divorce lawyer, they call a divorce lawyer usually in a very bad time, unless you're the one, that's been done with the marriage. But usually, I figured if I can handle someone who's calling 911 and I can handle that competently, I think I can handle someone who's calling a divorce lawyer, another stressful situation. So I ended up being a good fit in this area of the law. I'm not a good fit in many other areas of the
Yeah.
law.
Okay.
I couldn't do corporate finance. They're like, shoot me in the head. I couldn't do things like that.
Oh,
You know
What?
don't say that. All right.
Why do you
I wouldn't be able to do it either.
All right. Well, no, that's all. Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome that I mean, at least you can admit, like, where your strength is and like what you'll excel at, exceed
Yeah.
what you'll excel at. So, all right. So, Jen, we're gonna shift back up to you. So tell us about your first job out of law school. Like, you had some really solid experience. You went to a couple different firms. I think you were in big law. Like, tell us about the first job and like sort of like
Progression, yeah.
Yeah.
I did not graduate with a passion for a certain area of practice. And I talked to other law students, and that's a whole other conversation, but mentoring a bit with the law students. And I graduated and did not know, I did not, like Ankit, I didn't graduate and say family law would be a good fit or criminal law would be a good fit.
Yeah.
I was just the bookworm that wanted to go to law school and didn't know what area of law. So I interviewed and I saw the highest paying job that I was going to find. Because I needed to make money. I'm on my own now. And if after all these years of school, I still don't know my freaking passion, you might as well just take the highest paying position and go with it. So that's what I did. And the highest paying position that I was able to find was in litigation defense work, civil defense, commercial litigation defense, insurance defense work. And I worked for a rather large firm in New York. And I did all things defense, from defending massive construction companies, developers, architect companies, engineering companies in New York City, and the Walmarts, the Targets, the Amazons of the world, big commercial businesses in construction defects and catastrophes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and that's my first job. I mean, so I could go on about that, but I was an associate and I learned a ton, and the work is piled up to the ceiling, and so they throw you in, and that was my first job. That was where I really first got my toes wet.
Let me ask you a question. Let me stop right there. Like, when they throw you right in, do you know what to do?
Absolutely not.
Like, what? Like, they're like, "Hey, Jen, here's like a stack of files. Like, I need you to look at these files. I need you to write this motion. I need you to file this online. I need you to like go file this. Like, go like grab us lunch
I'm
after."
so open about this, and I'm not shy to even say it.
Say it again. Sorry.
I'm so open about it, and I'm not shy to say it. Now, this is not how it might be for everybody, but for me, I'm not trying to say I didn't know a damn thing. I was just grateful to get the job. I might have had the degree, the bar pass, and some good grades to show for it, and I was able to, speak with etiquette, but I didn't know anything. And so I have this massive case list that they gave me. I have ungodly amounts of billable hours that I have to make. But no, I did not know how to work these files. And it is true, you lean on these paralegals. So despite them being paralegals, I've learned such a new respect for them.
Yeah, sure.
And I got really lucky with my placement. I've had good mentors along the way, one of them being my own paralegal. But no, absolutely not. They handed me the files. You have case meetings, of course, and they make sure that there's nothing,
God,
the fires
so
are
stressful. I'd be like,
being put out. I know fires have to go out, and they'll help you put out the fires, but you're on your to realize that there's even a fire happening underneath you. So no, I
Wow.
had no
Yeah, I
idea.
guess the paralegal is huge, and that's
I got lucky with my paralegal. I mean, she was a law graduate. Um, I won't shout her out, she would kill me. But she's a law graduate and she's so smart. And I
well,
wish one
she's a
day
law graduate. Was she like taking the bar and stuff? Like she was
she
trying
did not, she took the bar years ago after she graduated, didn't pass, started a family,
Okay.
things went in a different direction,
Yeah,
and she just didn't take it again. And
it's all right.
she felt comfortable with the role that she was in as a paralegal, and she was definitely a senior, high
Yeah, I
level
mean the law
paralegal.
firm has to be like pumped about
Oh,
that,
if
right?
they lost her, forget about it.
Yeah. I mean, like
So
there you got somebody who's a practically
of
a
course,
lawyer,
that's
can do the work, but she doesn't have the bar, so she, you don't have to really pay
it.
out attorney's
I
fees
know
or something.
that's
So
the sad part, but yeah, they would stick all the associates under her because they knew that I mean, her personality was gold. I mean, still to this day, I love her. I
so
actually tried
yeah,
to take her and hire her myself.
really. You tried to
Yeah,
that's called
it's in the works, actually. It's in the works.
It's
Yeah,
called poaching. Like they do that in my industry, which
I want her.
nobody
I
knows what
want
I do like full
I
time.
told her when I get there and I can afford you, I'm taking you.
That's amazing. So you hit on a word that I didn't put in my notes, but I want to circle back to Ankit real quick before I come back to you. Ankit, any mentors like at all along the way, like when you first went into law, like, did you see another police officer who went into law, or like did you have any mentors? I know you work for a very nice firm. You have great partners that you work with. But before that, was there anybody as you were coming up?
Yeah, when I was in law school, I worked on this presentation in one of my criminal law classes, and it was an active case at the time. It was a shooting involving a police officer, and there was a lawyer representing that police officer, and I looked him up, and he was a retired NYPD captain. His name is
Wow.
Robert Brown. So I was like, wow, this is I'm doing a presentation on this case. I don't want to present what I'm reading in the paper. I want to hear directly from the horse's mouth. So I picked up the phone, I called his law firm, and he called me back. And that was 7 or 8 years ago, and the
Yeah.
rest is history. He's my mentor, he's my good friend.
Really?
Oh,
Okay.
yes, still to this day. Yeah. He and I are actually right now co-counsel on a case because there's some criminal issues involved. And
Cool.
we even went for an arraignment at midnight down in criminal court
Really?
one.
They do that? They have the night
Yeah.
court?
Yes, they do.
That's awesome.
So we're working together on one of my big cases. So that mentorship developed into a great personal and professional relationship. And as you mentioned, my current partners who have a wealth of experience, they're also my mentors, and
Yeah.
they help me a lot.
Yeah, no, they sound terrific. Like everything you've said about them sounds amazing. So Jen, how about you? Like, did you have anybody besides maybe like the paralegal that you sort of could lean on a little bit? I mean, was like family members, anybody while you were coming up?
Definitely not family members. No,
Yeah.
I mean, they were super supportive, yes, but in terms of mentorship, no, not until I landed my first job. I did have a really great boss. The partner that I worked for as an associate for those years in New York, he was excellent. He was only a few years older than me. He treated me with such respect, and he really showed me like and that's really where I really started to gain my traction and my confidence. He really taught me the ropes. And we still keep in touch to this day too. Um, before I left and I made the change, I made the jump, but he became a mentor for me. But through law school, I definitely had no mentor. I had like a friend or two that was a year above me, they'd share outlines and things like that, but by no means did I
Yeah.
have true mentorship until my first position as an associate. And then the partner I was working for, he was super cool. He was very easy to talk to.
That's good.
And even in the beginning, he like pulled me to the side and was like, I know this is a lot. I'm throwing a lot out at you, but on my team, we keep our problems between us. We put out these fires together.
No,
It's
that,
you and I. I'm not going to cut you off and let hang out to dry. It's me and you. And I liked that. Like he
yeah.
kind of took me under his wing. And he really taught me how to litigate. So I am very grateful for that mentorship that I received from him at that first firm. But he sure threw me in.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned a ton.
So So going through the few firms that you worked at, and I think you were at like a pretty big firm too at one point,
The
right?
last one was really big. The
Yeah.
last one was really big, but the one right out of law school was big. It was not as big as the last one I was with.
What were
But
you
the
doing at the big firm? Same stuff?
I did the same stuff, but I stopped doing the construction litigation and the professional malpractice claims with architect, engineer, defect, construction delay claims, construction defect, and construction catastrophe.
Okay.
I stopped doing that when I went to this bigger firm. And when I went to this bigger firm, I was really strictly focused on anything injury related.
Okay. So
Personally.
So let me ask you this. So when did you know that it was time to go on your own?
I knew 1 year into this big firm that I was just with. I mean, I'm only coming up on 2 years with my own practice. So that marks 2 years. So that would be 3 years ago was when I realized I think I could do this on my own. And
Wow.
I started to get that itch. So it would be 3 years ago, but 1 year into big law with the big firm.
Were you working like a ton more hours at Big Law? Like, is it true? Yeah. Or no?
Yes. Yep. But
Do they have a snack cart at least? Like if you're there past?
they have it all. Yeah, they have it all. Anything to keep you in there. Anything to keep you locked up and in there. Yeah.
All right. That's like the snack cart has been like a theme of like things that I asked whoever's on the show that has big. Anyway.
Yeah.
All law firms should have snacks. We have a whole kitchen full of snacks.
What do you got over there?
No, nothing exciting. Popcorn, rice cakes.
Anything to keep you late.
Alcohol.
Anything to keep you after hours.
Yeah. Ankit, go ahead. So you had an itch and you knew it was time to like go out basically.
It was 1 year. I was so immersed and so deep into the practice and so inundated with work. And I learned, I learned so much in that 1 year with this massive firm I was with. Okay. That just that 1 year was what really gave me the confidence. I said, okay, I have enough out of this.
And it's almost like you made it that far to like this big firm, like you probably feel the confidence that you're ready to. So Jen, what advice would you give somebody who's thinking about launching their own firm?
I mean, I say there's no grind like working for yourself. You have to have that deep hustle. If you're questioning whether or not you have that hustle, then I don't think it's for you.
Interesting.
But I think there's also, I also encourage it that there's no other time but now. Mm-hmm. The years pass by, the responsibilities change. There's only more that's going to get added to your plate. If you have the passion and you know deep down you have that hustle, I say do it. I mean, I will never look back. It was the best thing that I done. The best thing I could have done for myself.
So on the heels of that, I'm going to ask Ankit, like, what advice would you give to an attorney who would like to eventually become a partner at their firm?
You have to take ownership of the case that you're assigned, and you have to run it as if it's your own client, and you should be going to the partner with solutions and not problems. And you should always ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Right. You should present a work product to the partner that's presentable to the client as if it were your own client. And that's what I always did when I was an associate. You know what I would do? Sunday night, I would create a checklist for the week for the partner that I was working with primarily, who's my mentor and my partner now. And Monday morning, I would sit down with her and say, okay, this is what we need to do for all these clients for this week. This is what I have on my agenda for us to work together. And I made her life so much easier that it actually allowed her to take more cases, right? And so now we just hired 2 associates over the last few months, and that's made my life a lot easier. My book is growing now because I can market so much more now. You know, I can now leave at 6 p.m. and go do my dinners and go to these events because I have associates who are working on my cases. That does not mean I'm absent from my cases. I still maintain direct client contact, but mentoring these the new associates, that's very important because I want them to bring in cases one day too. I want them to become a partner. I want them to have equity one day.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So like how much do you feel you have to look at like what your associates are doing? Like do you look at everything they write? Do you redline stuff? Like are they brand new? Are they getting better? Like what's the relationship like?
One of them it was with us all throughout law school, so she's brand new. Another one, she's been a lawyer for a few years. Uh, Look, we're very picky as to who we hire and who we bring into our practice because we're not just a law firm, we're also a small family.
Yep.
We're not here till midnight every night. We like to go out. We like to go out together. We like to have fun. We like to go to galas, social events, parties. So who we bring in, we're very careful, and they're excellent, excellent lawyers. Do I read everything they send? Absolutely, because it's my client. I have to make, and I'm representing some of the most sophisticated people in Manhattan. Or something, if I'm representing, a celebrity,
Right.
it might be a big case. So I have to be very careful as to the work product that goes to the client, as all lawyers should be. So I am redlining, I am reviewing, but I do give, I allow the associate to tell me what she believes should happen next. So it allows them to, do some creative thinking on the case.
Yeah, no, that's no, for sure. That's great. It sounds like you're bringing them along. So what are the most challenging parts about being in that field as a divorce attorney?
I think the most challenging part is dealing with custody cases. One of my specialties is really high conflict custody litigation, and I've tried many custody cases. I don't have kids, so it might be a little bit easier for me because it's hard for me to empathize. But it's just watching the parents go through that. Uh, and you have to be careful. You can't allow your client to use the child as a ping pong, right?
Yeah.
It can't be a bargaining chip. So having kids in these cases is very difficult, but I deal with the two most important issues to every single human being, their money and their children. So it's difficult all around. No one wants to lose their money and no one wants to lose their kids.
Yikes. Yeah, and I remember you once saying you're a shark in court, right, man? Like they want to hire like a shark. I remember that from like one of the last episodes we did, right? Like am I
Yeah,
wrong? You can tell me I'm wrong. I don't know.
you're not wrong. Look, I have a lot to learn, but I'm pretty good in the courtroom.
Okay.
Uh,
All right.
I get approached in the courtroom by people that are watching. They'll ask me for my card after. So I am good in the courtroom, but it goes back to the mentorship. I've had great training and great mentors in my life that allowed me to develop into what I am now, and I'm still developing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, that's like really difficult things that you're dealing with. So, right on. I mean, that's tremendous that you're doing that. So, um, Jen, what are you finding are like the biggest challenges and the best parts about leaving Big Law and becoming your own boss?
Biggest challenges of leaving Big Law.
Yeah.
So one of those challenges is when you come from a massive firm with 500 attorneys, the work is piled up to the ceiling. I was not responsible for farming the work or finding the work. There was plenty of work to go around. It was piled up to the ceiling.
Yeah.
Now on your own, it's an eat what you kill model. So as I mentioned
Right.
ago, I mean, if you don't have that grit deep down or that hunger, then you're not going to eat. So that it's challenging, but it's a good challenge. I like the challenge to go out there and farm your new business, farm these cases, bring them in. So that's a challenge. What else is different? I mean, I'm loving that. I mean, I'm steering the ship. And I'm in control kind of where the firm goes and what I want it to be. It doesn't have to be, and that's another thing is like when someone's thinking about opening up their own practice, it doesn't have to match the traditional idea of what these firms looked like for the past 50 years. I have a modern day practice. My practice is virtual. Sure, I have office space down in Fort Lauderdale as well as New York. Client wants to meet with me, and we do meet in person. we have a place to meet. However, my firm operates virtually. So I love the fact that, I mean, that's what I'm building. That's what I want. And that's how I see my future. So that's exactly how I'm building my practice. Now, that's not a fit for everyone.
Yeah.
Not everybody would like that. I know I'm not a fit for everyone. But that's the model that I'm looking to build. That's the vision that I have. And so it's challenging because it's different. But I embrace the
Yeah, and
change.
you sound really excited about it, and you sound happy, and I think that that's really like important.
Yeah, I'm in control of my own schedule. I'm in control
Yeah.
of who I'm meeting. I'm in control of the clients that we sign.
How do you not to rain on that, but like how do you compete with these like huge like PI firms, like the massive billboards that you see?
Yeah.
Like how do we do that as like a one person operation?
Yes. I keep it simple. I don't compete with them. So there's PI is definitely a saturated field for sure. There's so many PI personal injury attorneys, and no less in Florida. I mean, every exit on I-95 is another billboard with another personal injury attorney. I don't compete with them. I don't look to compete with them. The view and approach that I take is I take my network from a bird's eye view, and that's who I'm seeking to target. I'm not targeting I-95 billboards, the big names. I'm not in competition with them. I nurture my own community, my own friend base, and that's who's feeding me. And they will feed me. I have good relationships, and that's where I'm farming my business. So I don't even view it as I'm competing with them. I offer such a different kind of concierge style, boutique, one-on-one. You want a lawyer, you're going to talk to your lawyer. That lawyer is me.
Right.
As opposed to some of these billboard firms. I mean, I'm hearing from some of the clients, I mean, they're firing these billboard attorneys, and they're hiring me. I mean, I get transfer cases all the time. They said that their calls are being transferred out of the country.
Yeah, I bet.
To
Yeah.
paralegals overseas. So
Do we want to name some of those firms, Jen? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not going to name them, and they'll come after me. But I'm farming out there, the paralegals and associates. I don't know about associates, but the paralegals and intake call centers overseas. You want to talk to your lawyer? I'm the one that's going to take the call, and I'll be on the schedule for that. So I don't compete with them.
So where are you getting like most of your case? Like, do you feel that lawyer to lawyer networking is important?
Yes.
Okay, good.
That I get my cases from three. I would say my top three. One, other lawyers. And I don't even compete with other personal injury attorneys. I hope for success for everybody. I cheer it on when I have girlfriends down here that own their own personal injury law firms 20 minutes away from me. We're co-sponsoring events. I'm cheering you on. I hope you get cases the same way I do.
Oh, you sponsor events, Jen? That's good to know for the next time we're in Miami.
Yes. We're working on one. I'll let you know about it. But other lawyers.
There's so much money to go around. There's
plenty of money to be made.
You have to look at it as it's abundant for everybody, right?
Yep.
There's enough work, and there's enough money to go around for everybody to be fed.
Good.
I lean on other lawyers. Yes, I think it's incredibly important. I don't think that it's something that they teach during law school. And I realize that and you want to build true organic relationships with these other attorneys. Going to networking events and just blindly passing out your business cards, you throw them out when you get home, or they get stuck in the junk drawer. Truly building relationships with these other lawyers, they keep you in mind, you're front of mind. And so that's where I get many of my cases is from other lawyers. Also, New York personal injury attorneys who are not practicing or licensed in Florida. There's a lot of snowbirds. There's a lot of people that are going back and forth to moving, to either in or out of New York, or in and out of Florida, back and forth. And so keeping my New York colleagues close and being a Florida go-to girl has been working fantastic for me.
I think those are two amazing states to be barred in and to have a practice, New York and Florida. I mean, that's
my
incredible.
personal injury friends in New York, I hope they keep all the cases and do successful uber well with them. But when they have somebody that's, in Florida or moved or was a snowbird, on that first phone call, they're not even licensed there. So it works out great.
Right.
Other places I get cases, again, of course, social media. It's an easy, organic, and a cost-efficient way to build a brand. And I think that's really important if you're your own business owner. You can't compete again with those billboards, and you don't want to. So social media is another big one. And of course, in the medical space, we're doing a lot of referring outbound to urgent care centers, MRIs, chiros, orthopedics. My clients are injured. They don't know where to go. So when I refer patients outbound to medical providers, we hope that they keep us in mind.
Jen, you actually might want to come in
back.
October. You might want to come in October because the sponsor is what I hear is a medical. I'll talk to you after about it. But
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So
send them patients.
Yeah.
And if they ask for a lawyer, of course we can't, they can't solicit, they can't push them. But if someone's asking for a lawyer and they're standing in an urgent care center after an accident, we hope for that phone call back.
Yeah.
So those are my three big sources.
That's awesome. That's really clear. That's great. And Ankit, this is, I don't know, maybe you can't answer this, but this is so
what
in a different direction, but what, give us some private details that you get from your clients. No, I'm just kidding. You can't really do that. I was thinking about that when I was preparing.
You want the name of the athlete I represented too? Come on.
No, I'm just saying dude, you're doing matrimony. I mean, they must tell you if they're really upset or something, maybe you hear some all right, anyway, that's a different.
I know every single private detail of all my clients.
All right, okay.
Oh, wow. So you definitely hear the juicy details.
The juicy stuff. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, let's try something else. I want to turn to Ankit's LinkedIn posts because you do some excellent work there. You write some really amazing stuff on LinkedIn. I shouldn't even call it stuff. I'm sorry. You write some really thoughtful items. And first of all, we'd love to have some of those on our website, thelawyerstories.com. We have a blog. We'd love to, either of you, Jen too, if you have something existing, whatnot, we'd love to post it up there. But what have you been working on lately, Ankit? I know you really write a lot of thoughtful posts on LinkedIn. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so what I try to do is I try to take an issue that impacts a lot of people who are going through a divorce, such as child support, such as alimony, such as division of assets. Just today, I read a court decision about how if you overpay child support, you're not entitled to a direct reimbursement of it. It's against public policy in New York. But the overpayment can be applied towards certain other expenses for the children. So it's not a direct cash-on-cash reimbursement, but you're given credits for something else. But that's a post that I'll probably write about at some point this week. So
yeah,
or a lot of the times I'll do news hacking because I've been interviewed. I was interviewed to comment on J-Lo's and Mark Anthony's divorce a few years ago.
Wow.
So I always look to see what's happening in the news.
Sure.
I wrote a post about Kevin Costner's divorce and why his child support was $150,000 a month or whatever it was, and then it was subsequently reduced to, I don't know, but maybe $67,000 a month. A lot of money either way, right?
Oh, geez. Yeah. That's too bad, huh?
Tax-free money. That's tax-free money.
Yeah.
So, but what's a lot of money? It's a relative thing, right? It may not be a lot to him. Yeah. It's a lot to most people, most of my clients. I think that the biggest case that I've done was a monthly support figure of $63,000 a month. That was the biggest one.
What's that annual? Wow. 6 million or something?
Wow.
No, $63,000 a month, tax-free. That's roughly a little over $720,000 a year.
720,000. Sorry, that was such bad math. I'm sorry. Now you know why I went to law school. That was
to law school.
Terrible.
I was going to say.
I would actually, if I wanted to, I'd go and tell Pod 617 to delete my math skills out of that, but I won't do that. All right, so that's okay. Yeah, that's a lot of money. I mean, that's great.
It's relative to the kids' life.
It's relative, yeah. So are there different levels of cases you're handling, like matrimonial cases, some contested, more assets? What are you typically cutting it off at? When a client comes in to see you, how do you know which one you want to take on?
Well, the number one question I ask myself is whether the client and I are a good fit. Because if we're not a good fit, then I'm not the best attorney for this particular client. And Jen mentioned steering the ship. the client has to understand that in my cases, there's only one captain of the ship, and that's me. And if that's not acceptable to a client, then the client and I may not necessarily get along. So
Yeah.
far, I haven't had a single client ever leave me. So, I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
And I look for sophisticated, high net worth cases where there's several millions, usually tens of millions of dollars at stake. When it comes to the custody aspect of cases, or I might get a case that just custody issues, then I don't necessarily look at the dollar value. I look at the issues involved and whether the client can actually afford me and whether I can actually help the client. So I'm always I'm coming in usually in the third or fourth quarter of a case where the client has had some bad luck and they want a case to turn around. They want some structure. I just got a case last week, very high conflict custody case, very, very difficult case, but it's going to go to trial and the client came to me at the right time. So I've developed a reputation now where clients or even other lawyers are coming to me with cases that are almost ready to go to trial. The last two cases I came in were like a month away from the pretrial conference, and I had to get an adjournment. Like I can't get ready for a pretrial conference in a matter of weeks when the case has been litigated for 4 years and now it's ripe for trial. So high conflict, high net worth cases, that's where I excel.
Wow. Okay. I mean, are these cases where people are texting you at like all hours of the night and saying this guy, he did this, he did that, or is it different than that?
No, all hours of the night,
Yeah.
weekends. Look, I typically answer if it's not an emergency, um, I I won't answer you typically after 8 p.m. But it also depends on the client and what kind of relationship you have and the issues involved in the case.
Right.
Some clients may be a little bit over dramatic about a certain issue, but when it comes to kids, if kids are involved, whether you're texting me at 10 a.m. or 10 p.m., you're getting a response from me. Doesn't matter whether it's a Monday or a Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
always
Oh,
available if
gosh.
the issues relate to kids.
Yeah. I mean, you both are dealing with cases where people are so vulnerable. You get them in this situation where, they want answers like right away, and you have to really, really be, empathetic and be able to handle that. I mean, that's because this is, both of those are really difficult situations, very difficult for these people. So has being this divorce lawyer changed your view on getting married?
That's a good question.
That's a great question. To many people's surprise, it hasn't changed my view on getting married. I'm certainly more picky. And I always, when people ask me for advice, what advice would you give someone? I said, look, I don't know. I've never been married, but I will say it's what's most important is who you end up having kids with, right? If you get married and you decide to get a divorce, no kids, it's just a complicated breakup and an expensive breakup with the government involved. But once you have kids, no matter how much you hate the other parent, your ex-spouse, you're stuck with that spouse in one way, shape, or form for the rest of your life because you have a child in common. Even when that child, is beyond the age of 18 and is an adult now, there are still issues you'll be dealing with: college,
Sure.
weddings, birthday parties, life events. So just be very, very careful as to who you have kids with. So yes, I would get married one day with the right person because I want a family for myself. So yeah, I would get married.
Yeah, for sure. Jennifer, tell us about one of the most memorable cases you've worked on.
Okay. One of them, I guess I can say, is a day laborer who was working around the clock to support his family. We're talking 60, 70-hour labor hours out in the heat, out in the sun, fell from a 30-story building and is now a lifelong paraplegic at only 38 years old. He'll never walk again. He can't support his family. He has no education or other trades that he can go into to support his family. the medical bills that he's racked up into this date and forecasted for the rest of his life. You're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars just for care. Forget about the maintenance and support of his family. Hotly contested litigation case involving developers, the architect, the engineer, the general contractor, all parties get sued. You go after the deep pockets. Every single company that was on that job site that day gets pulled into the matter. You got lawyers from all over the country with corporate, big businesses all surrounded, all involved. And the case goes on for years, but that was one of the most memorable cases because talking to the family and hearing the client testify, I mean, the client can't even use the bathroom. Use the bathroom without an aide helping him up out of a wheelchair, and sit down on the toilet bowl. I mean, it was awful. But there's no amount of money. And that's why it was so memorable, because it didn't matter how far we pushed the needle in terms of settlement, or taking the trial and put it in a jury's hands. And it settled right before trial, tens of millions of dollars. But that doesn't change, what is the quality? And so that was one that I will never forget because he was so vulnerable. The wife didn't work. They were hardworking immigrants that moved over here. They've been here for over a decade, young school children. And then the family, because the case carries on for years, they were going to file bankruptcy. They were in debt up to their eyeballs with medical bills. They couldn't pay. But it was so memorable because it's life-changing. And it goes to show that, a lot of people have a bit of a jaded view sometimes with personal injury, and, not every accident's a huge accident. Not every injury is debilitating, but when you come across those debilitating injuries, that's when it really does become real. These clients need you. And that's one thing that I'll always remember from coming from the defense is the insurance companies, your claim number, they don't even know your name. And if they could have got off paying zero, a motion for summary judgment, they're all filing motions for summary judgment. If they could have got off paying this guy zero, they absolutely would.
I know, it's crazy.
So
Jen,
that for me.
So that's an enormous case. Was that right when you went out on your own?
No. So this one was still while I was in big law.
Okay. All right. Okay. I was going to ask if you had to associate with another firm that might have given you more support and that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. On that one, we're spending hundreds. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So where do you see your law office in 3 to 5 years? And Ankit, you're next with that question. So I'm going to ask Jen first.
That's a good question. Okay. Where do I think in 3 to 5 years, I'm growing my powerhouse legal team. I want a team. I'm going to continue to grow this team. I am sticking with my virtual practice. That's the lifestyle that I'm looking for. That's the life that I want. I am different than the modern day, but I want to really dominate the Florida market. And I want to keep my close ties in New York and continue to build out there.
Yep.
On catastrophic injury cases, accidents of all kinds, any type of negligence case is what we're looking to build on. But I'm looking to grow my a little quote here is the lady legal team. So we switched, we mastered the defense and then we swapped sides. Nice. So I'm looking to build and take my legal team that has their defense experience, swap sides, and just skyrocket this team. I'm looking to really build up a firm here. And I want lawyers, and I want a team that thrives in modern day remote work. And I like to call myself a modern day practice. I want people that thrive in that work from home life, and they can operate under high pressure. These cases are high stake, high pressure. So I'm not sitting around all day hanging out with these cozy work from home jobs. I'm looking for dedicated professionals to just build onto this team. I want an army of women. That's what I'm looking for.
That's awesome. And by the way, and this goes for both of you, if you ever see somebody on the Lawyer Stories feed that looks interesting, or like maybe you just feel like you get along with them, I'm happy to make the introduction. So Ankit, how about you? 3 to 5 years?
Doubling my practice, doubling my lawyers here. So there's speaking of lady legal team, I'm the only male attorney in my law firm.
There you go.
There's 8 of us here, including staff.
Really?
I might be 9 now, but yeah, I'm the only male attorney. I'm only male in my law firm. So I don't care whether man, woman, or whoever you are. I just want to grow.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Just keep growing. I don't like working for other people. I like being a partner in my firm.
Yeah.
Now, I do know how to take directions, and I do know how to listen to my mentors because they know a lot more than I do. As a young attorney, or no matter what profession you're in, you should humble yourself a little bit because you don't know what you don't know, and someone with experience can only tell you what you don't know. So just listen to them because it goes a long way. So I do a lot of listening here, even to my associate. I listen to her, I listen to my staff, and I think that makes a good leader, right? You have to listen to your team.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. That's awesome. I like that you touched on that about being a leader. Like that's so important to listen when you're a leader and not just, direct all the time. So Jen and Ankit, did we leave anything out? Any quotes or any advice that you want to share with the community here?
Well, since you brought up leadership,
yeah,
there's a book called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. It's the best book on leadership I've ever read. And the theme is you as a leader of your team have to take extreme ownership of all the losses. Anything that goes wrong, it comes down to you. It's your fault. And when you win, you have to credit the team because you didn't do it. So I recommend that book for anyone who's looking to, develop themselves into a great leader.
That's awesome. Maybe text that to me or something. I don't know. I should probably read something like that. But that's great. Jen, how about yourself?
If we're going on the book theme, one of the books I'm finishing now is called 10X. I think it's 10X is Easier. And it's about mindset, really, and how going 10X is easier than going 2X. And if you think big and you think 10X, you get there easier because you get stuck in the rat race of, well, I just got to work harder. I just have to put in more hours. And in our field, we're building practices. If you think 10X, you think so big, you almost think that it's impossible, but you get there faster. So I'm trying to kind of twist my mindset to think 10X. It's not, I need to put in an extra 2 hours every single night, and you still get stuck on the hamster wheel with what we're trying to grow and where we're trying to be. I'm trying to twist my mindset to think 10X. Where do I want to be in 10 years? Now I got to think about those seats that I need to fill. I got to bring in more attorneys. I have to build the team, build the staff. It's not just a matter of putting in some extra hours. You're still stuck on the hamster wheel. It still leaves you stuck on the hamster wheel.
That's awesome. You guys are a pleasure. Thanks for coming on today. And please stay right there. Thanks for joining us. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in wherever you are in the world today. Enjoy yourselves. Cheers.